To have on the Bench Racing Hotline the driver of the number 34 MHP 8-hour alert Ford for Front Row Motorsports as we head to Talladega. David Ragan joins us. Hi, David. Welcome to the show.
Always good to be on. How are you guys doing?
We are terrific. Charlie brought this up in the first hour. He said, and he didn't know if he had the exact metrics right, but you're a stud at Talladega.
Yeah, if you look at the
hopefully we can keep that trend going. I've been fortunate to have some pretty good cars and runs there over the years. We were able to win a nationwide race there a couple of years back. So, we go there this weekend with our Front Row Motorsports team and our 8-hour alert Ford. We expect to run well. A lot can happen in 500 miles. There's a lot of different strategies, but hopefully we're up towards the front at the end of the race, and we'll see what happens.
David, Talladega's called by people like us, a wild card race, whatever, wild card track, because almost anything can happen. There's always the looming big one and all that stuff. You've had remarkably good, consistent finishes there on average. Is there anything that you do consciously there at that racetrack that you don't do at, say, a mile-and-a-half track or one of the 2-mile tracks? What do you do differently at Talladega, if anything?
I think it's what some of the other guys do different. I think that, the mindset going into Talladega is, oh, man, it's a wild card, anything can happen. And sometimes they're a little more careless, or maybe they're not, on top of their game maybe as much. I don't really know, but I take Talladega, Daytona just a serious race, try to think about strategy, how to stay out of trouble, how everyone else is handling the draft, where they're strong at. And, I think some of the guys just take such an unnecessary risk at times just because, hey, it's Talladega, there's a 50-50 chance that we're going to wreck. But, I try to race hard. I've not been a big fan of riding around in the back and just hoping for good fortune at the end. So, what I've been doing, it's been okay, but I've had good race cars. That certainly makes it a lot better when you've got a good engine, good Ford horsepower, good car that it handles well. That certainly makes life a lot easier.
We're talking with David Ragan from Front Row Motorsports. David, when you go to Talladega, I know 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, we had the whole tandem racing thing going on with the new car. And NASCAR made some changes to the rules to where that hasn't happened the last couple of times we've been to these plate tracks. But there is still, I guess, the possibility of late in a race, hooking up with one guy and maybe doing that. Do you look at that? Do you talk to David or anybody and say, hey, if we get towards the end of this thing, we're gonna duel it up and go, or is that really not a consideration until you actually get into the race and see what happens?
Yeah, certainly you talk to some of your teammates and talk to some of the other Ford drivers. We'd certainly like to help, the couple of Ford drivers that are in the chase as much as we can throughout the weekend. But ultimately, it's tough to have a plan because so many different scenarios come to play at the end of the race. You don't know who you're around. You don't know who you're close to on a restart. So hopefully you make some friends throughout the day and you put yourself in a good position at the end. But definitely, it would be a dream to have, David Gillen right in front of me, right behind me there at the end, and we could push each other to one of us having a win. So that'd be huge for Front Row. It's a chance that we can do it this weekend, and we'll take it serious. And I was at the shop earlier today. Our 8-hour Ford is looking good, and I can't wait to get down to the track on Friday.
Well, as Charlie kind of said, you're looking to hook up with guys and make that push if you can. It'd be, wonderful if David Gilliland, your teammate, were right in front of you or right behind you to make that happen. But it doesn't necessarily going to work out that way. Are there guys that you're relatively comfortable with, that you've been able to run in tandem with before, that you would look for, that you would kind of try and get hooked up, synchronize those last pit stops? Is there certain guys you're looking for out there?
You're looking for anyone that has a decent car and that is not totally out of control. In the past, I've always worked with our teammates, being a part of the Ford camp. You had the Roush cars, you had the Wood Brothers, and the the two front row cars and Richard Petty Motorsports cars. So it's definitely something that all the four teams try to work together as much as possible, and you just see what happens at the end.
Does Talladega change a lot during this particular race? I've noticed a lot of these racetracks as we head towards the fall, the racetrack tends to be a different racetrack than what you went to earlier in the year, and they seem to change more throughout the race because of the fact that the temperature seems to change more. Is that a logical thing? Am I thinking right, or am I just kind of making this up?
Yeah, I mean, I think the races that you look at, Daytona, for instance, it's in February and one's in July, so it's going to be a lot different. But you catch Talladega, the first one's in April, the second one is in October here, so the temperatures are fairly cool both times we're down there, and I think they're going to be what we had in the spring. The low 70s, not too hot, not too cold, and that's certainly a factor that you do have at several racetracks that we go to. But usually Talladega kind of works its way into the schedule where you don't have a big discrepancy in temperature from race to race.
Again, we're talking to David Ragan, driver of the number 34 MHP 8-hour I can't Alert Ford. I
can't read my writing.
No, I can't talk. Alert Ford for Front Row Motorsports. David, you're sitting currently 30th in points with 7 races to go in this season. Do you look ahead of yourself in points and say, like, my target is to get that guy in 25th, or you just go out and do the best you can every week and let it fall where it falls?
Yeah, you've always got a goal. At the first of the year, the Front Row Motorsports team, I was new to the team, and this was only their 4th year full time in the Sprint Cup Series. So we had realistic goals. We wanted to have both cars locked in to the top 35 in points, and David and I did that.
Yep.
We've been locked in every race this year. And then now you kind of look and say, hey, let's have a goal to get in the top 30 in points. And I think we're both sitting 28th and 29th right now. Well, we've got a chance to finish, 26th, 27th or so, and that would be a realistic goal for our team and for the program that we have at Front Row Motorsports. And then you look at next year, and we want to be in the top 20, top 25. And so if we can keep that progression a little by little, that certainly is a big thing. You don't become a Sprint Cup winner and champion overnight. So I've enjoyed the time and look forward to making things better next year for sure.
Question I had for you, for David, is as we look towards next year, and I hate to throw away this year, but there is a test coming up for next year's car. Didn't know whether you guys were in a position to have a car out there for that test. And where are you guys as far as 2013 and the 2013 Ford Fusion?
I actually looked at a 2013 car that we've got on our surface plate this morning at the race shop. They're currently working on the updates on the chassis. They should have the body on in the next 4 weeks or 3 or 4 weeks. So we're in the progress. I think really the testing that you're going to have now is going to be good, but NASCAR hasn't even released all the rules for the suspension components and some of the templates for next year. So I don't really know if you're going to learn a whole lot in a few weeks with some of the 2013 tests, and that's why you'll see only 5 or 6 cars out there. When the real tests roll around, you'll see 25 or 30 cars show up. But I think there's still a lot for NASCAR to announce on the rules side. So I think you're kind of wasting time and effort. Certainly a program like us, we need to stay at the shop and work on our race cars, and we'll let our the counterparts at Ford do some of the testing. And when NASCAR releases all the rules and we know what we're going to be racing next year, we'll be out on the racetrack, beginning of next testing time.
What is 2013 looking like for David Ragan? Are you going to continue in the 34, or are you looking at other things? Where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, the guys with the 34 Front Row Motorsports team, we're trying to re-sign a few of our sponsors. And, we've had some great ones this year. 8-Hour Alert, the MHP guys, they've been, they were our first primary sponsor, at the Daytona 500, the Bud Shootout earlier in the year. Scorpion Truck Bed Liners, Glory Foods, Peanut Patch. We've had some good partners, and if we can kind of rally the troops, then it'd be a lot of fun to do the same program again. That's what we're working for. We don't have everything in place 100%. But got a lot of respect for Bob Jenkins and Jerry Freeze and our management staff, and look forward to helping Front Row get their first win in the Sprint Cup Series.
All right, David Ragan, thanks so much for being with us. Best of luck to you this week, the rest of the year. We will talk to you again, my man.
Yeah, man, you guys have a good show. Talk to you later.
All right, thanks so much.
David Ragan. David